Okay, I'm just going to let the clock run down to make sure the thing goes. But yeah, it seems to be working okay. So just give me 2 seconds then.
If I wanted to grow it long, there'd be bits where it was like, yeah, it's where it's going out and then the weight drags it down. It's similar type of thing. Different lengths where you've got to get past.
Mine grows at weird angles, like round the.
Okay, stop the time. I'll transfer it across. And we're live!
Cool.
Perfect timing for you to choke.
All right. So, welcome. Session 2 of Eternal Lies. Where are we? So, currently, to recap last week, you responded to an invitation from a Janet Winston Rogers, a sort of a fairly wealthy New York socialite who wanted to gather together a group of like-minded individuals, people with a desire to uncover the truth and looking for some adventure in their lives, to help her to understand what happened to her father, who died recently, a couple 3 months ago. What happened in 1924, which, from her recollections as a child, her father went away and then came back a very different and perhaps broken man. And so she's tasked you with trying to figure out just what happened. She provided you with a bunch of letters that seemingly come from a gentleman called Douglas Henslow, based in Savannah. The letters having 2 distinct addresses. So gathering yourselves together, you took the aircraft, the sort of the modified DC-2, southwards for sort of 3 or 4 hours down into Savannah, this being the 1st of November. Heading from the cooler climates of the north of the US down to the almost the southern part of the US, to Savannah, Georgia, where you've discovered that the 2 addresses, one of them is in sort of the centre of Savannah itself, appears to represent or be a building known as Joy Grove Sanatorium. The second appears to be out of state or out of town, out of the city boundaries, on a road that, as far as you can tell, leads you down into a bit of a swampy, marshy part of the south. And I think we'd left it on the evening of the 1st of November with our intrepid group of adventurers, or investigators, should I say. This isn't D&D, of course. Our intrepid group of investigators meeting for dinner in the restaurant, or perhaps more likely in the penthouse, where you were meeting for dinner, comparing notes, and planning out the events that over the coming days. So, over to you, gentlemen / ladies and gentlemen. What do you wish to do?
Alfred and I, we went to the sanatorium just to have a look and see what it was like, and it's pretty well fortified. I mean, you'd expect that, to be fair, for all those nut jobs that were in there.
A lot of security checks as you're going in. Was it? We saw one, but we suspect there's 2 security guards. And you can't get in without going through the checkpoint.
No, it's very true. I was thinking if I could get one of one of Janet's friends to maybe give us a note to get in there or something, but that'd be great. Or maybe even if Margaret could sort something out with the police.
We've got a letter of introduction from her, but I don't know whether that would allow us into the sanitarium.
I think we probably need to speak to the daughter at the house, 23 Old Hope Road, at the edge of the marshland. Looks like there's a daughter there called Emily Henslow.
I suggest going to the daughter as well first.
Yeah, there was a father who died last year, Peter Henslow.
Yeah.
But we could approach Emily, saying we've got a letter of instructions to meet her father. We need to speak to him about something, because she may have control over that,
like a power of attorney.
That's a good point.
That's a really good idea, Rolf. How's the salmon?
Salmon.
We're gonna get a mute. We're gonna get a mute for Zed's keyboard.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought he was on mute. I've muted you then, and then for some reason I've unmuted you, so apologies. I was just typing a load of notes up. I'll try and remember to mute myself when I hit the keyboard really hard.
So how's the salmon? It's one of my favourite dishes.
The food is good. I mean, in terms of quality, it is definitely not Michelin star quality, but it's certainly 3-4 star hotel quality. Certainly better than what you would eat day to day, other than maybe yourself, Mr. Westmore, because you would eat quite well all the time.
So I think Ralph has a great idea with Margaret here about going to find Emily in the morning. Let's see if we can get our way into the sanatorium to see her her brother, father, son.
What was in her? We're assuming it's the father, but
By the way, I screwed up slightly, so I'm just going to retcon something. The name is not Emily, it's Virginia.
Virginia, right? Okay.
Sorry, that was my bad. I was scrabbling for a name. I thought I'd seen it somewhere, and then I discovered earlier on when I was reading my notes that the name exists on a handout you're going to get, and it wouldn't make sense. So it's Virginia.
Okay.
Do we know that she's the daughter, or all I had was Mrs. V. Henslow's at the address? We're assuming she's daughter, really, aren't we?
You are assuming. You don't know. You've got no context.
Yeah.
Was she not on? Was she not on the births?
Oh yes, she was. Suggests it would be mother.
Oh,
So she's an old lady. What she's in
An
the
old-
60s or 50s
yeah.
or 60s. All right.
She's in her 60s. Yeah. Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah, I don't like retconning, but in this instance, I've got to because the the handouts that you get wouldn't make any sense.
Well, explain
Why?
that. Pete Henslow must have been the husband of Virginia then.
Correct.
Yeah.
The father.
Yeah, the father of Douglas. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Right. If you ladies and gents don't mind, I'm going to turn in for the night and take this little bottle with me.
okay.
it's a good idea to turn in.
Yeah. The overall the evening is pleasant. Those of you who kind of spend time together, the evening is pleasant. Gradually, one by one, you all kind of make your own way to your rooms up on the penthouse suites and turn in for the night. Each of you enjoying a very good, restful night. No dreams that you remember, no panics, no nothing. Margaret, I don't know, do you want to telegram your husband to say you've arrived safely, check in on the children, or are you just going to ignore him for the night?
Can't I phone him?
Yeah, you probably could phone him, yeah. There were phones in the 1930s.
Whether you had an individual one in your house.
Yeah, it's whether you would have an individual one at home or whether it would be a party line or something along those lines. I remember party lines and I'm only 50.
Yeah.
What's a party line?
So share it with somebody.
Yeah. And very occasionally you'd pick up the phone, you'd hear somebody else talking down it.
I know party lines.
That'll be my sister.
Mm-hmm. But it's not a party. It's not sharing a phone within your house. It's sharing a phone with people in your street.
Oh, is it like you have to go outside to use the phone or something?
No. It's still in your house. It's just on the line. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it's a bit like loads of people having broadband now, and if it's all in the same area, it throttles it because it's all going down.
Yeah, imagine
similar thing.
Imagine having a phone in every room, and then somebody answers a call downstairs. You can pick it upstairs or in any bedroom and listen to the conversation. That's what party line was. It was a phone in every house. But
we had that in our house. There was one at the front door, and there was one in my sister's bedroom.
Yeah, so that's the same thing. But it's like they're all connected to a socket in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And when we had dial-up, everyone was complaining that we couldn't use the phone because if you picked up the phone, you got the funny noise.
Yeah.
And then you lose the connection to the internet.
Okay.
But yeah, Telegram, is that like Morse code?
No. Telegram would be, a very short message that then somebody would send for you. So there's probably a way for you to have the hotel.
Railway station.
Yeah. It could be, whatever your husband's name is, dear James, arrive safely, stop, hope children are good, stop, see you on Wednesday, stop, or see you end of the week, kind of stop. And then it would...
How would he get that from where he lives, though?
Because it's addressed. It'll be addressed to a person. Then the telegram comes through.
Yeah.
It's like a quick letter. Early email, isn't it?
It's early email. You can do candy that way as well. It's called Candygram.
All right. Well, the morning you all wake refreshed in the morning, somewhere as you do between sort of 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. Once again, you take breakfast up in Joseph's suite and plan out your day. Breakfast consists of baked goods, fruits, milk, coffee, tea if you want it, and of course cooked meats and things like bacon and egg and stuff. Quite luxurious breakfast for the hotel.
Yeah, does it last me the day?
and eat croissants.
Yes, I'm a fan of this maple syrup that comes from the north there. It's very, very good.
I just like honey.
Right. What
Okay,
I'll do when breakfast starts, I'm going to call for the car to be ready for the next sort of hour.
I was just going to say, is it chauffeur driven or do we drive it?
We don't drive.
I thought we drive it.
No. Not unless needs must. Why drive when you can have somebody do it for you?
True. Especially since we don't know our way around as well.
I'm not sure if that's in game or in real life with Medi. So what time are we leaving then?
Within the hour.
Zed, we can't hear you.
That's because I was typing and I turned my thing off. The car will be ready for you on the dot at 9 a.m.
Wonderful, thank you.
Wait, what's the time now?
8:03 a.m. I don't think I can give you access to this calendar, unfortunately. Is there anything you want to prepare before going?
I had a nice lie-in.
You did?
We have about 5. What with the kids?
I'm just going to go as I am. I don't think I need anything else.
Okay. Under the person icon on the left-hand side of the screen at the top, you should see something that looks like I would call it a Lego brick, but it's supposed to be a calendar. If you click on that, it should open the calendar up and you should see what time of day it is and what date it is.
Oh, wonderful, yes.
Yep.
Cool. You can, I think, put notes in there as well if you expand it out. There's a way to put notes in, but I've just been putting some basic notes to summarise events of the day and stuff. The calendar's also
real time.
Yeah, it's also running in real time as well. But it doesn't run in real time because, for instance, about an hour later, you find yourself sat in your car, your town car, heading out to...
What? A tank car?
Town car.
Oh, I thought it said tank. What?
No, town car. Heading out into the sticks down this part of Savannah. The driver's a sort of an elderly gentleman. Well, I say elderly, he's probably in his late 40s. Very smart, well turned out. He opens the doors for each of you and kind of helps you get into the car. The car will just about... Well, no, the car will seat the 5 of you. One of you will ride up front with... 4 of you, sorry. Because I can see me. One of you... We did this last week. One of you rides up the front with the driver and then the other 3 of you sit in the back. The drive out is uneventful. It takes you about, I would say, from where you are, you get through sort of rush hour Savannah traffic, which is not too bad. I was nowhere near what it would be today, of course. And then you sort of take a gentle meander out, heading out further and further away from the outskirts of Savannah and more into sort of the swamp lands around the town. It is definitely marshy, definitely swampy, definitely gator territory as you're kind of travelling out here. And the road goes from being a fairly well tarmacked road, gets slightly narrower and narrower, and then eventually kind of like almost like an old cart track. Stones at either side for the wheels to roll along, and of course grass running down the middle, slightly elevated up away from the water on either side of the road. Definitely single lane. Occasionally there is passing places for you to pull in and allow another vehicle that might be coming towards you to go past you. You travel for about 40 or so minutes along this road, and eventually the driver starts to slow down. Mr. Westmore, sir?
Yes.
I don't quite know where this property is. Do you have a name for the house or an address, sir?
23 Old Hope Road.
Well, so this is Old Hope Road. Let's just have a look as we drive. And you can see a number of houses sort of starting to appear. These are classic southern, almost plantation-style houses. Really big, grandiose kind of I'd say Victorian, but we're not in the right country for Victorian kind of houses as such, but sort of that late 1700s, early 1800s kind of colonial almost style of housing that you see in the south of the US. And gradually, you start to count up the numbers, and here and there you have to stop and peer out and try and figure out where you are. But eventually, after sort of another half hour of driving, only because it's tricky for you to find the house. So we're kind of getting to roundabout sort of 9, 10, nearly 10 o'clock in the morning when the car comes to a gradual stop outside of a gravel-lined driveway to a set of wrought iron gates. Beyond the wrought iron gates, maybe 100 or so feet, 50 or so yards, maybe 150 feet, you can see what appears to be a very grandiose-looking house. The gates are firmly closed.
Possibly something similar to what I've just posted into chat, in case anybody doesn't know what they look like.
Yeah, exactly. Something very similar to that.
Is it like a Dallas house?
Correct, yes. There is so the gates are closed and they appear to be padlocked.
Any sign of life in the house? With lights in the windows or curtains up and things like that?
At this time of day, there's no real sign of light in the windows because it's quite a bright day. That said, it is somewhat overcast. So in that sense, there's no sign of life. There is a small, what you can imagine to be maybe a gamekeeper's house, cottage, sort of halfway between where these wrought iron gates are and the actual house itself. There's also a small plaque inside, sort of affixed into the wall where these gates are.
Is there a bell or a buzzer or anything like that?
There is a small enclosed box with a bell pull in it, and it just says "Ring for attention."
So I didn't, in being in the south.
Ralph, Margaret, do you want to take lead on this? As soon as you did the family history finding.
Well, I think possibly your name might bring more to it, with a direct connection to our benefactor.
Well, that's very true. Well thought again, Ralph. Well done. I'll walk over to this bell pull and I'll give it a firm tug.
As you kind of get to the bell pull, you can see now that as you kind of step out, Mr. Westmore, sir.
Yes.
Would you like me to leave the engine idling, sir, or will you be here for some time?
Not sure. Yes, not sure. I mean, no, turn the engine off, but turn the car around, but turn the engine off afterwards.
Very good, sir. And he will, as you kind of get out, he will reverse into the and turn it kind of round and just park it across the front of the gates. It's now as you've kind of got out the car and you get closer, you realise that the house certainly looks like it's seen better days. The track leading up to the house, you can now see weed and things kind of interspersed amongst the grass and other parts of the sort of the carriageway. The bell pull, the plaque where it says "ring for attention," probably brass at some point, but is showing that kind of tarnished, speckled, tarnished look. Probably hasn't had a good clean for several years. Likewise, the wrought iron of the gates, the paint, the black paint that was once was probably quite a decent black paint, is now starting to peel off, and you can see rust poking through where the paint is kind of peeling off and the damp has got into it. And generally, the cottage itself, the closed cottage, appears to be quite sorry. The chain for the bell also looks tarnished and not well used. Certainly, there's no kind of sheen or shine to the metal where regular people are pulling the bell regularly. And you kind of give it a ring, and you wait. And you wait. 2 minutes go past. Nothing seems to be happening. Ring it again. You ring it again. Another minute goes past. And another minute.
So no sign of life.
So there's a wall. There's a wall that we're going.
Yeah. So if you think it's kind of probably a 5-foot wall, and then maybe a 2-foot wrought iron fence on the top of the wall with spikes on the top.
Okay.
The padlock, does it look like it's been used at all recently, or is it rusted?
It isn't rusted, but it isn't well kept either. The door to the cottage opens, and you see a man step out. "Yeah, what is it?" he says as he kind of walks towards you. You realise he's cradling a double-barrel shotgun in his hand, currently pointed down, but he is kind of heading towards you.
Joseph, somebody's here.
Lovely photo.
And you can see this man, on the one hand, he's obviously trying to dress smartly, but he's kind of doing so in kind of gamekeeper's clothing. As I say, a big, huge double-barrel shotgun in his arm, and one of his pockets seems to be bulging. From the looks of it, certainly to Alfred's eyes, you would imagine they are shells, additional shells for the shotgun, maybe 4 or so. And he kind of, mutton chops, kind of moustache, beard, cap on his head. Yes, what is it?
Oh, hello there, my good man. We're hoping to have a little, to spend some time with Mrs. Henslow, if she's available.
Mrs. Henslow is not taking visitors today.
Oh.
Invitation only, sir.
Well, to be fair, we were sent down here by Janet Winston Rogers. You may have heard of her.
Can't say I have, sir.
Oh, her son was a very good friend.
Well, that would be a matter for Mr. Henslow, who unfortunately is indisposed right now.
Yeah, we know, which is why we need to speak to Mrs. Henslow.
Well, sir, I'm afraid she is not feeling well today and has instructed me to not show any visitors.
Could you perhaps get word to her?
I can certainly get word to her, sir, yes.
Wonderful. We'll wait here while you do so. Just tell her Joseph Westmore is here to see her.
He looks at you, kind of looks up and down. What kind of spend do you wish to make on this to try and convince him? He is definitely not, right now, he's not inclined to want to take that message. He doesn't see himself as your errand boy.
Right, I was going to say, no, I bet he doesn't. Flattery's not going to work on him, I don't think. It may be a bit of reassurance.
Okay, spend however many points from your pool you wish to spend, and hit your spend button, and we'll see what happens. Oh, all 2 points of reassurance spent. Wow.
Yes, I know.
You're really putting it on. He listens to you for a few moments, and how are you going to reassure him? What kind of things are you going to sort of say to him?
We're here for it is Virginia, isn't it? Not Victoria.
Virginia, yes.
Virginia. We're here for Virginia's sake. We're here to hopefully find out what happened to her son and why he's where he is. And it's linked to there's certain things which you do not need to know, but it's for her own safety that we're doing this. Janet's brain fart after 2 seconds. Janet Winston is concerned. He's hoping that the same thing doesn't happen to her as it happened to Douglas.
He listens to the story and he nods and he says, So you think that Mrs. Henslow might be at risk here, sir?
Possibly.
Then, by all means, please just wait here. And I will have words. It may take me a little while, so unfortunately, I am instructed not to open the gates for anybody. So I see you have a motor vehicle. Perhaps if you wish to wait in your motor carriage, I will take word of your arrival and take instruction from Mrs. Henslow.
Wonderful, my good man. Thank you. And
Okay.
as he goes, I shall light up a cigarette.
Okay, and you watch as he kind of turns and he kind of ambles down the road, slightly limping. Definitely seems to have some kind of injury, maybe long-term injury on his left leg as he's walking down the path. Unfortunately, he keeps you waiting for a good 40-odd minutes before... you probably smoke your way through 2, maybe 3 cigarettes. Those of you in the car, you might, occasionally get yourself out and stretch your legs, get a little bit irritated at being cooped up in the car. All the while, the clouds are starting to roll in. It looks like there's going to be some inclement weather coming in at some point today. You can see him come back down the carriageway, and he seems to be clutching something in his hand. Appears to be an envelope or a piece of paper of some kind.
I've got a question.
Yep, go on.
So when we spend points, we shows how many points we spend, but we don't actually see the dice roll. Only you do.
There is no dice roll.
No dice.
No dice roll. So spending points in your interpersonal... hold on, let me just open a character. In your academic, interpersonal, and technical skills are used to get extra clues or something extra out of an individual. So in this instance, Joseph kind of got the sense that, being asked, the groundskeeper had basically said, be on your way. The mistress of the house isn't ready to see you. So Joseph did some reassurance, why I'm here, why we need to see her, why it's important. And it was enough. Actually, a 1 point spend would have been fine, but a 2 point spend really rams it home. And really kind of lays it on thick and really gives that sense of we're here at the best interest and the best will and of your employer. And they only come back at certain times. So I will tell you when you can have a full refresh or a 24-hour refresh. Actually, I don't know that it's relevant, but if everybody wants to click 24-hour refresh on their character sheets, because you have had a sleep. It's not quite a long rest, but you know what I'm saying. And yes, he's had an arrow to the knee. Or more likely a bullet to the knee. So he comes back, again limping quite heavily on his favouring his right leg over his left leg as he kind of comes down the road. He's still got his shotgun now kind of casually in his arm as he walks along. In his other hand, he's clutching an envelope, and he comes up to the gates and he says, "Please forgive me, sir. the lady of the house is still under the weather and is unfortunately not inclined for visitors at this moment in time, though she does wish you well and thanks you for your concern about her and her son, and she has given you this, and he passes an envelope through.
I'll take it, and I'll turn my back to him briefly while I read it.
Okay. It appears it is obviously headed the Henslow house. It just says, to whom it may concern. Actually, no, it doesn't. It says, Dr. Keaton, Joygrove Sanatorium. I hereby grant permission for the bearer of this letter to speak with my son. Yeah, I've forgotten his name now. Douglas, that's right. To speak with my son, Douglas Henslow, on a matter of family importance. Signed, and it's kind of quite a very weak and somewhat old Personish kind of name. But the letter itself has been typed. And you get this sense, one finger typing. So the groundskeeper was probably typing with one finger as the lady dictated to him, and that's why it took so long for it to come through. And he says, I'm very sorry, sir. I hope this will be of use. The lady of the house suggests that perhaps you may wish to speak to Master Henslow.
That's very thoughtful of her, very insightful of her too. If we find out any information that's pertinent to her, we will come back and pass the message on.
Very, very well, sir. Very well.
Just out of interest, between us, what's wrong with your mistress?
Well, so she's missing the master of the house.
Oh yes, I
and
heard.
has shock from Master Henslow's behaviour when he was last out of the sanatorium. But it would not be my place to speak of such. You would need to either speak to Master Henslow of such things, or when she is feeling up to it, maybe Mrs. Henslow would be willing to speak of that event.
Thank you, my good man, and pass on my my thanks to your mistress.
I will do.
Good day, my man.
Good day to you, sir. Sir?
Yes?
If I may, a raincoat might be appropriate this afternoon. Rain is coming.
Why, thank you. And with that, I shall get into the car.
He winces a little as he turns. He's got a weather knee.
Just in case there's a problem for anyone else, 24-hour refresh doesn't do anything.
Does it not?
No.
That's because you have not spent anything that would allow for a 24-hour refresh.
Okay.
I'll double check to make sure that is the case.
I spent reassurance, streetwise,
yeah,
and stealth.
Yep.
Yeah, all I've done is credit rating and my reassurance, which I've just done.
I'm assuming the chat commands don't work in this either. Like
the
/me or...
No, they should do.
Seem to be saying it doesn't exist.
Okay, weird. Guess not then. Guess it's a very stripped down version of the game.
Whilst I've been waiting, Ralph's been drawing a sketch of the plantation house as viewed through the gate.
Yeah, no problem.
And then just taking notes of names and whatnot.
No problem. Okay, you get back in your car, head back towards Savannah. what are the plans? Are you going to go find somewhere for lunch? Back to the hotel, maybe? Find somewhere else for lunch? Or are you going to go straight to the sanatorium?
Definitely lunch first.
I was going to say, I've probably eaten enough for the whole day compared to what I normally eat.
You
I
have.
don't tend to have much of a breakfast, but if you need food, then that's fine.
I think we should have a little lunch anyway somewhere, and maybe have a discussion of what we want to ask Douglas and how we're going to approach it. I must be truthful here. I'm a little bit out of my depth when it comes to the interrogation of people, I suppose. But
do I know whether that letter will authorize us all, or just one or two of us?
It says the bearer and associates.
That's okay.
When you said interrogation, I'm pretty good at that sort of stuff, I presume my character is.
Yeah, Margaret's got interrogation skills. You know how to play the good cop, bad cop routine, for sure. You know how to extract information from people as part of your day-to-day job as a police officer.
Right.
I've got some skills as well, being ex-cop.
It's just talking to people, really.
Yeah.
Joseph, it's just talking to people.
I'm not good at talking to people.
Don't look at Joseph. Don't look at it as an interrogation. We're just talking to people.
We don't want to interrogate. Usually means intimidating someone. We want to reassure him, and we don't want to upset him.
Absolutely. Just think about the skills and how you want to use them. So you drive back into Savannah.
I'll make a note of landmarks and things as we're going, just so that I can find my way back if needed.
Yeah, no problem. You can spot, you turn right at the road at the fort. The tree with the broken branch.
Yeah,
the hollowed out stump is you're about 2 minutes down the road from the hollowed out stump. On the right hand side is the Henslow residence, etc., etc. So you can very easily pick those kind of markings up. Certainly, with your investigative skills and stuff like that, you can very easily kind of identify that. Same with you, Margaret. Your skills as an officer allow you to kind of spot those landmarks and work out how to get back to this place if you need to do so. Lunch. You find a fairly decent restaurant where you can all sit and enjoy lunch. It's a simple affair. It's nothing fancy, but it's palatable. It's eatable. It's not too expensive.
Do we pass a deli? So
you'll find the equivalent of a deli. Yeah.
Ralph will just, if they're going to something like a restaurant, Ralph will just potter off and go to a deli, get a sandwich, and go to get a coffee from somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, you can find a kind of a deli, coffee, smokehouse kind of place where you can enjoy all three things at once. Well,
so I was going to say
your plans.
Yeah, we need to find out, and I'm saying this to everybody here. We need to try to find out if he knows that Walter's dead, and what they were doing together.
Yeah, it's what the letters were about, what the news that he wanted to discuss with him.
And he mentions writing a book, didn't he? That's detailed at all. If he'd be willing to tell us where the book is,
and where they went as well.
That's right. We need to find out where they went.
Yeah.
And I do think mentioning Janet's name would be important as well.
Yeah, that's why I asked for the introduction letter, just to give some validity to our questioning.
Yeah.
So we've got Where did they visit? The book. Conversation with Douglas. What did he have to say?
Walter, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, Walter.
There's your letters if you want to just refresh your memory about the letters.
Did we take any of the letters? I can't remember whether we left them all behind.
I thought we
Yeah,
dropped.
we checked them. Yeah.
You've got them. Yeah, you've got them with you.
So that's another way of proving that we are legitimately.
Well, you tell me when you want to finish lunch and head off to the sanatorium.
Yeah, we'll sort of give it half an hour for the coffees to go down, and yeah.
Okay. So kind of getting close to 2 o'clock, you have the driver take you to the sanatorium. As you pull up to the gate, as you expect, the gates kind of, well, maybe as you don't expect, the gates actually swing open. A man kind of opens the gates, gestures you in, and then kind of holds his hand up for you to stop. And he goes round to the driver's side, and the driver winds the window down, and he kind of leans in. Madam, sirs, may I ask your business at Joy Grove today?
I'll show him the letter from Virginia.
Okay. He reads the letter. Well, Mr. Henslow is entitled to visitors, though this is a little unusual. But still, please drive up to the entrance. You may park your vehicle outside the front, and please report into reception.
Thank you.
I'll look at the security as he's talking to them. Do they look armed or just normal?
Billy clubs.
Right, okay. So nothing over the top.
Generally speaking, billy clubs. If you want to spend, let's have a look. Perception's not quite a thing in this, is it?
No.
Give me... Well, it's up to you. If you want to see if there's anything more, I'll let you spend from your evidence collection pool.
Okay, what is that? Oh, is that a skill?
It's a technical skill, yes. You have 1 point in your evidence collection pool.
Okay.
So if you...
I'm not using that though.
Okay, you don't have to if you don't wish to. Like I say, you know that he, in terms of the immediate thing that springs to your view when you ask the question, is he armed, is the billy club that he's got on a loop on his belt.
Yeah. I'm basically trying to see, are they expecting more trouble than just potentially an inmate?
It's not a prison, it's a mental.
I know. That's why I want to check whether they're treating them like prisoners or...
As you drive past the guard hut, there is what appears to be a shotgun affixed to the wall inside the guard hut.
Okay. It's like they're expecting trouble of some sort.
Type make? Don't know. You went past to, the car was kind of accelerating away, and you just caught it out the side of your eye. Your keen eye for evidence kind of just picked up on it. Drives across, following sort of the gravel carriageway to the front. The front itself has a large sort of ornate fountain in the middle of a big circular area. There are a couple of cars parked off the circular area, and your driver kind of parks up and reverses in. And Mr. Westmore, would you wish me to wait or return to the hotel, sir?
No, you can wait if that's all right. Well, that's not all right. Yes, you can wait.
Well, very good, sir. Very good, sir. He gets out and he opens the door and, offers his hand to Margaret as she steps out of the car and straightened, well, sir, I will wait in the car for you to return.
Thank you. We shouldn't be too long.
Very good, sir. Stepping up, the building, as I say, is a hulking red brick sort of Victorian building with tall, narrow windows with Gothic detail. Its blend of looming verticality and decorative detail means it could have been anything from an imposing school to an artful factory in a past life. As you walk in through the main doors, they're quite large, heavy-set oak doors, quite imposing. You come into kind of a reception area that sort of doors at the back. Actually, they're barred doors at the back. You say this isn't a prison, but Margaret, as you step in here, that's exactly what it looks like to you. Up close, a lot of the windows are barred. Even the office windows at this front part of the building appear to be barred. Away further into the building is barred by large, thick-set, heavy, sort of prison gate-like doors. There are 2 or 3 kind of plant pots in the reception area to try and make it feel more cheery and more inviting, but the atmosphere is quite stale. There is a small hatch that, as you come in, kind of opens, and a lady kind of pokes her head through the door. Yes, may I help you?
You certainly may, and I again will slide the note over.
You're here to see Mr. Henslow. She says this quite loudly.
Look around. Is there anyone else in earshot?
She is, just give you a description of her. She's cute, but not adorable. A lopsided smile, big eyes. She has that kind of southern charm about her. So, Mr. Henslow, I take it you're here to see, yes?
We are indeed.
All of you?
Yes.
Oh, well, it's a bit unusual for Mr. Henslow to have a guest, let alone 4 guests. May I inquire the nature of your visit? For our records, of course. And you can see she's got a book, and she's kind of with a pen in her hand, and she's starting to ready to write some notes.
Family business.
Family business. Would Sir kind of expand on family business?
So we care not to know.
A door just to the side opens, and a man in a white lab/doctor's coat kind of pokes his head out. Is there trouble, Nurse Hampton? No, Dr. Keats. This gentleman here is... Dr. Keaton. This gentleman and Madam here want to visit Mr. Henslow. Interesting. Gentlemen, Madam, please, come in. And he kind of steps to one side of his office, and he kind of gestures you into his office.
Yep, follow.
Nurse, refreshments for our guests, please. A very good doctor. And she kind of disappears off.
As the doctor shows us, Ralph will just sort of like look at Joseph and kind of raise an eyebrow.
There are 2 chairs behind his desk, and he gestures to Margaret, one of the chairs, and he leaves kind of then. He looks at the rest of you, and he's about to gesture for one of you to take the chair, then kind of leaves it hanging, quite unsure who to invite to sit. If you'd apologise, I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. My office is only ever really has a maximum of 2 guests, so it's unusual to see 4 of you wishing to see one of our patients.
Sorry, I didn't, Dr. Keaton, I didn't realise there was a limit to the amount of people that we could visit.
Well, a limit, not so much, but as you can imagine, we do have some difficult cases here at the sanatorium, and so we try and keep disturbances to our guests and our patients to a minimum. And 4 strange people walking through the sanatorium can, of course, upset some of them.
I can understand that. I've dealt with people in distress.
Very, yes, madam. I'm glad you can empathise with the situation. But never mind. Mr. Henslow, I understand you wish to see.
Yes, that's correct.
And did I hear correctly on family business?
You did indeed.
That's interesting. Could I perhaps ask you to indulge me a little bit on expanding on what you mean by family business?
All you need to know, Dr. Keaton, is this. And I'll again hand over the note.
And he reads the note and he nods. He says, yes. Is it to do with that incident?
I can quite honestly say, hand on heart, I have no idea what that incident is. What are you alluding to?
Not the 1924 incident that brought Mr. Henslow into our care.
Pray elaborate.
Well, it'd be far from me to share confidential information about our clients, beyond that Mr. Henslow is not the only one here from that incident.
And are they called Henslow also?
No, that would be a Mr. Job.
Right. I'm sorry, the name... Job.
Was that Job?
Yes, Mr. Job, yes. Or Mr. Job, depending on whether you pronounce it as Job or Job, J-O-B.
I was assuming there was an E on the end.
Yeah, I assumed there was an E on the end.
Mr. Job, then it'd be Job.
First name Odd.
His first name Big?
No.
Has he got a bowler hat with a blade around it?
Odd, yeah, I know.
Bobber?
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Job was one of the criminals, the so-called cult, as Mr. Henslow would have you believe, that Mr. Henslow and his companions were investigating. I can. I just wondered if you were here in relation to that. But if not, then no worries. I can certainly arrange for Mr. Henslow to speak with you.
Oh, wonderful. That would be great. Thank you.
Very well. I do. Go on, Margaret.
Can I just voice my opinion in my head rather than out loud? Does it sound like he won't let us in if we tell him that we are wanted to talk about that incident?
Do you want to spend a point of your assess honesty pool?
Yes, please.
Okay, spend a point. So say just hit the plus, hit the magnifying glass, and then I'll tell you how you read it.
Which one's this one?
So it should be one of the very first skills under interpersonal.
Would help if I hadn't scrolled it down.
Yeah. Okay. You're observing this conversation between Dr. Keaton and Joseph, and the way you read Dr. Keaton is he was very surprised. First of all, he's surprised that 4 people have turned up want to speak to Mr. Henslow. Equally, he's surprised that you don't want to include and speak to Mr. Job. He was assuming that you were here in relation to the 24 incident, and when he was kind of Job was pushed to one side, almost not really interested in that. For a moment there was a sense of disappointment. And to answer your question directly, no, he is not going to stop you from speaking to him if you were here about the 24 incident.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely. I can send word to the orderlies to have Mr. Henslow taken to one of our interview rooms, make him comfortable there. But I must admit, we do have a strict policy here that no patients can be interviewed by anybody who is not direct family without a member of faculty. So if you don't mind, I will quietly, of course, just observe whilst you have your discussion with Mr. Henslow. Of course, to make sure that nothing you talk about agitates him in any way, to have a recurrence of his historical problems.
Should we be made aware of anything that might set him off to avoid that subject?
He says, well, hopefully nothing will set him off, my good sir. And it's hard to tell. He does get passionate when he's talking about the 1924 incident, but clearly if you're not here to discuss that, then I don't know if there'd be anything specific that would set him off.
What is this incident? So that's we don't know whether what we're here to see about it is related.
Well, like I said, he came to us in a very distressed state of mind. It would not be prudent of me or ethical of me to discuss the exact reasons he was here. As I mentioned, we do operate a very strict client doctor confidentiality here. All I will say is that him and Mr. Job have been kept separate since they've been here. Mr. Job, according to Mr. Henslow, was a criminal, part of a cult that resulted in Mr. Henslow losing some close associates of his, which unfortunately, as you can imagine, seeing one's friends and colleagues murdered in front of your eyes can, of course, send a person into a mental state, push them to the point where they're no longer able to function well in society. I've got to be careful because I was going to use things like PTSD, but in 1930s they wouldn't know what PTSD was, right? So I've got to be careful about how I describe it.
We did have shell shock, though, didn't we?
Yes, that's what it would be. So that's right, shell shock.
They might liken it, I suppose.
Yeah, so he'll liken it to shell shock.
The problem with shell shock is they thought it was the sort of wasn't true.
Yes.
Oh, it was like a coward's way of getting out or something. Or other.
Correct. Yes. Resulted in some unfortunate soldiers being shot.
Yeah, for desertion.
Correct.
So, how long has he been here? When was he admitted?
Well, that's again, sir. I'm afraid that is the actual detail. He says, "Well, I can tell you now that he's been here since 1924, sir."
Okay.
Oh, we
Our
thought
letters are
he
more
was-
recent than that, aren't they?
I thought
Yes.
he'd been admitted recently and had been out. That's what the letters presumed mentioned.
Okay, if somebody wants to spend some flattery or oral history, he'll respond to that. Just 1 point.
I don't think I've got either.
I'm got flattery.
I'll use a point of flattery to.
Okay.
How do I call up the letters?
Oh, I think I have to reshare them with you.
I'm just looking at the dates more than anything. See whether he was in here when he wrote those, or
Well, now remember, some of the letters had different addresses on, so some came from 23.
yeah.
Bear in mind,
Street.
the latter letters are in line with the current dates of 1934. They're not, 1934. So the last letter, which is December 28th, is an August date. If you remember, it crossed the death of Janet's father.
Yeah, it's the fact that if he's been here from 1924, he's written letters from within here as well as outside of it.
Yeah, but don't forget. Yes, so 90 so he must have been here from 24 to 1930, 1931. Then 1933, he goes to Hope Street, or Hope Road. Sorry.
Indeed, sir. Your memory is very good, and thank you for commenting on our stringent client confidentiality policies. I'm very pleased that you appreciate that. But I suppose there's no harm in telling you that yes, and confirming that indeed Mr. Henslow was here from 1924. He was in and out, should we say, during that time up to 1932, where he felt that he had been cured of his ills. And at the time, we believed that to be the case, so we allowed him to return home to his mother. Unfortunately, an incident, which again I'm not really at liberty to discuss, saw him return to us, and very, one might say, embarrassingly for the family, perhaps, or disappointing for Mr. Henslow. The courts themselves were involved and signed an order which has left him in our care permanently.
Now, my worry, Dr. Keaton, is we have some very personal family things to discuss, and you may have a doctor-patient confidentiality, but we also have a confidentiality to the family too, and that is for no one else to hear what we're going to be talking about. So we're a bit of an impasse, whereas we have to see Douglas, and you're insisting on seeing Douglas with us.
Indeed, that is the condition of me allowing you to see Mr. Henslow.
Is there not a window you could look through to make sure nothing happens?
Unfortunately not, sir. We have to be present in the room just in case a patient were to, and please don't take this the wrong way, this very rarely happens, but a patient were to become violent. We would be present, and he taps his sort of coat pocket with the necessary sedation should such an occurrence happen. We couldn't allow any of our guests to be harmed by any of the inpatients. Could you imagine, sir, the problems and challenges that would cause were the press to get hold of it?
Can I just pipe up and say that I've dealt with people who can be, shall we say, aggressive, and I will show my police badge.
He looks at your police badge and smiles. Well, madam, I'm glad to see it, but still, unless you're direct family, I cannot, in good faith or good conscience, allow Mr. Henslow to be interviewed by yourselves, unchaperoned by myself.
So were we family, you'd allow them to go into the room unchaperoned and be attacked? Is that what you're saying?
No, sir.
Because that's what you're inferring.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
We would ensure that you had a bit more privacy. We would be outside the room, at the door, monitoring from there. But yes, unfortunately, the rules preclude me from allowing such a visit. But I promise I won't interfere.
Yeah, this letter kind of overrules that and gives us the right of family. The letter that his mother has written.
Okay, does anybody want to spend any of your skill pools and tell me what you're spending? Sorry?
That's true, because the letter said on family behalf.
Correct.
Yeah. I've got law. Can I spend something from that? Would that work, or...?
Law probably won't work in this situation, but how would you try and apply law? As in LAW, right? Not LORE.
Yeah, LAW.
Yeah.
As in, we have effectively been given the rights of family, according to this letter in this instance.
Would it also be possible to use bargain? So part of the concern was that he feared us being attacked. Okay, so if we sign waivers, not to press charges if we come to any harm, then legally, there'd be nothing coming back on the institute. But clearly, we are, we've been given permission to act as family on behalf of the family. Therefore, we should be given the same consideration. So, by all means, stand outside. And if the worry is that we'll be attacked, then we'll sign waivers.
Okay. He kind of dismisses your concern around law, and sort of says, unless a court instructs him otherwise, he has absolute authority over patients here. And they just give dispensation to family members, generally speaking, to kind of bend the rules a little bit. When you talk about waivers, though, if you spend your bargain, 1 or 2 points, your choice, he nods. I could see perhaps how...
Right, who was spending the law one?
That would be Alfred.
Do we still need to spend it, or...?
You don't have to spend it, because it wasn't going to work.
Right, okay.
As we get further into the game, though, I might give you prompts, and even if it's not going to work, I might give you prompts. You have to decide if it's worth it.
Yeah.
He says, I can see how perhaps 5 of us in a room with Mr. Henslow may seem a little bit intimidating. So yes, you say you're willing to sign waivers?
Yes.
Each of you?
Absolutely, if that would grease the wheel, as the saying is.
Well, he goes to a hatch and he opens the hatch. Northampton, please bring forthwith 4 visitor waivers, please. our guests, and please instruct the orderlies to arrange for Mr. Henslow to be taken to interview room 3, please. Gentlemen, madam, are you certain it's just Mr. Henslow you wish to speak to?
You're getting more intrigued about Mr. Job, aren't you, sir? You're getting me more intrigued, shall I say? Maybe we could. Depending what happens with Mr. Henslow, we'll come back and talk to you, Dr. Keaton.
Very well. Okay. Then, nurse, please have the orderlies, as I say, escort Mr. Henslow. Tell the orderlies to explain to Mr. Henslow that he has guests who wish to discuss some family matters with him. Have him sent to interview room 3. And you hear him nod, and papers come through the hatch, and each set of papers that are sat out, and he very painfully, over the next sort of 15 minutes, kind of writes your names and your addresses, and then he passes each of you one at a time, starting with Margaret, this kind of standard sort of non-disclosure, not non-disclosure, but there's an element of non-disclosure in there as well. You will not discuss what you see or any treatments that you see being administered to patients. You will not discuss outside unless it's with a member of the medical profession or is brought up in court. You will not go to the press and discuss anything that you see. Likewise, you do not hold Joy Grove or any of its employees responsible for any miscarriage of justice or violent act that any patient bestows upon you during your time beyond the kind of inside the sanatorium. The usual. There's nothing in here for those of you like Margaret and Alfred. Those of you with law, there's nothing in here that screams, don't sign it, don't sign it. It's standard. Basically, you're absolving the sanatorium and its employees of anything, should anything happen to you.
So we're not booking ourselves in for a happy stay.
You're not booking yourselves in for a happy stay. Not yet. This is Cthulhu. It might happen one day.
Yeah.
Okay, you sign that over the next sort of 20 minutes. Takes us close to about 10 past 3 in the afternoon. There is the gentle patter of rain. You can kind of hear it hear it outside, kind of dripping onto the windows. The rain that the gamekeeper had forecast has arrived. After sort of 20 minutes, 2 orderlies knock on the door. And
can I just say something? I've completely forgotten what we're supposed to be talking to this guy about.
That's fine. It'll come to you as you get there. Just take cues from everybody else. Dart, you're doing really well tonight. You are taken by Keaton and 2 orderlies. The orderlies are, one of them's a coloured gentleman, the other one's a white gentleman. But both of them are probably in their late 20s, perhaps early 30s. Pretty stocky, pretty well-built individuals. Not Arnold Schwarzenegger muscle-bound, but certainly not, me, kind of, the bit more meat on than I have. They escort you...
Someone terror.
Yeah, about Soren's kind of size, yeah.
Maybe a bit taller.
Bit taller, yeah.
And
Other than the white guy has more hair.
I don't know how long you're sitting down and we can't tell.
Yeah, the white guy has more hair. The coloured gentleman doesn't.
are they armed like the security guard with the stick?
And both of them have billy batons. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and keys, obviously. You're taking just a short walk down the corridor into a number of rooms. It just says interview room 1, 2, 3, sort of 6 in total, and number 3 is furthest away from the front entrance, if you like. You go through a gate, it's locked, it's opened, it's locked. You walk a little bit further to the interrogation rooms. Beyond the interrogation rooms, there is another kind of barred gate that is currently closed. And the two orderlies, they kind of take positions either side of interview room 3 door. And Mr. Keaton kind of opens the door, and as he does so, Mr. Henslow, your visitors are here. If it's okay with you, I'll stand outside and I'll wait for you to speak with one another. Mr. Henslow, of course, if you are feeling distressed or unhappy by anything these individuals have to say, please just call out for me and we can terminate the interview at any time you wish. And you watch what you think is Douglas, clearly is Douglas, you hope it's Douglas, nod at him. And this is kind of what you see.
That's Bob Hope.
Sorry?
It's Bob Hope.
Yeah.
Is that who he is?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Bob Hope. So Bob Hope would be playing Mr. Henslow.
Explains so much.
If we had this as a movie. I didn't realise that was Bob Hope, so I apologise to Mr. Hope and any of his... I know he's dead, because, there was a joke about that, right? You've got, 2 Hopes and Bob's dead. But yeah, it's not that any of Mr. Hope's family would ever be watching this, but if they were, by
Funny
some,
you should mention that.
all images used.
Apologies to the family, but here's a joke about it.
Oh, and you like golf too.
Brilliant. That's exactly how I am. Yes. No, I don't have a picture of Stephen Hawking anyway. But that's kind of who you see. What you see is kind of a middle-aged man, unfit, overweight, not obese, but certainly doesn't look like he looks after himself. His hair is kind of thinning on the top and at the back. He definitely looks like he needs a haircut. And he kind of looks up and gives you kind of a half... gives you kind of an attempt at a half smile. 4 chairs have been arranged kind of in sort of 2 in front of the desk where he's sat, and then 2 more off to the side to try and be as unimposing and unintrusive as possible. And as you go in, the door quietly closes behind you.
Just looking behind as the door closes, is the grills and doors a glass panel? Can they hear what we're saying?
The doors are a glass panel. It's not a thick door, so you would imagine raised voices would be heard through the door into the room.
Going to walk forwards and maybe and sit in one of the chairs.
Okay. He watches you and nods as you sit.
I'll not say hello, Douglas.
At this point, you notice he picks a small box. Actually, I don't think it's a small box. I think it's a freaking huge box. He picks up a box and he presses it to his throat. And this kind of electronic sound comes out of it. Hello, sir.
I get the Stephen Hawking's note.
No, it's not Stephen Hawking's, but it is a 1930s voice box.
How is that? Is that because he's had a
It's a laryngectomy.
Is that the one where they get you to breathe out of your throat rather than your mouth?
Yeah.
Right.
And how may I help you? It's been a while since I've had visitors. I'm very very pleased to meet you. I'm Douglas Henslow, and you are, sir?
I'm Joseph Westmore. And these are my colleagues.
I'll say my name's Ralph Hasser.
Pleasure to meet you.
I'm an antiquarian from New York.
And I'll introduce myself as Margaret Sullivan also from New York.
Madam, pleased to meet you. And sir?
I'm Alfred Elliott, private investigator from New York.
An interesting group of individuals you have here, sir. May I ask why you are here?
And I lean slightly forward and quietly say to him, Janet
Ralph?
Winston.
Sorry, Ralph will be sat to the right of Westmore,
Okay.
and I'll just have my hand on the arm of his chair, and what I'll be doing is I'll be using psychoanalysis to watch for triggers. So
Okay.
I'll tap on the chair lightly, or on Westmore's arm.
Okay.
As like a back off kind of trigger.
Okay.
So if you want me to spend the point in psychoanalysis,
Yeah, please.
for that.
Yeah, spend a point in psychoanalysis. That would sounds awesome. Anybody else doing anything in particular?
I'll stay standing, but back by the door. So I'll be leaning back against the door.
Okay.
I'll probably be sitting down on this seat somewhere. I forgot where you said the layout of the seat.
Okay, so you've got two chairs directly at the table. So now you've got Westmore in one, you've got Hass in one. So so there'll be other two chairs just off to the side, not up against the table to make it feel important.
There's chairs on the opposite sides of the table, like a typical interview room.
It's been laid out. It's been laid out like an interview room where you're interviewing one person. So there's no chairs on his side of the table.
So to this side, one either end of the table, and he's on his own.
Yeah, kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll sit on one of the side chairs then.
Okay. Oh, nice. Okay, that's okay. Anybody else doing anything before we take a quick break, and then we'll get back to the interview?
Well, I've got interrogation points.
I have as well, but we don't really want to interrogate him. Have you got reassurance?
Thinking. Yeah, I've got tuna reinsurance.
Yeah, reassurance is probably safer.
I've got whatever that is.
We want him to keep calm, and I'm hoping that me being up against the door will help muffle the sound a bit.
What's theology, by the way?
Religion.
Religion.
All matters to do with religion. So Margaret is probably with Sullivan. Sullivan's kind of an Irish name, so the likelihood is Margaret's a Catholic.
Yeah, probably Roman Catholic.
Okay. Does any of you have oral history?
Yep,
I do. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Oral history is, so let me describe oral history to you.
History, but remembered by talking on books.
It's how you go about getting people to talk, worming your way into their confidence, and gather oral testimony about events in the past, whether it be local traditions, what happened last month, last year, 10 years ago, folklore about the area, that kind of thing. It's just, it's kind of like small talk, or a way that you put somebody at ease so that you can get answers to questions that you want.
Okay.
So
I've got something called stability. Is that anything good, or is that something?
That's ours.
That's a physical thing.
Stability is a physical thing, and it is temporary insanity. If your stability drops down...
Sorry, yeah, I remember now. Yep.
Yeah.
The insanity one as well. Right.
Yeah. At this point in time, we will take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back. So whoever has oral history needs to start the conversation. No spend required, but I'm going to guess that Ralph and Margaret, between you, you're going to kind of try and get him to open up about 1924. That's what I'm going to assume.
Why did you say to the doctor that we were going to talk about this thing, even though we are going to talk about this thing?
because we suspected it's something that they don't want us to talk about.
Yeah, well, he seems to think we're going to talk about it before we've even said we want to, you know. So
My thing is, my honesty already said that they don't. He wouldn't not let us talk.
But you
we
haven't
don't
had
know that.
chance. But nobody else in the group knows that because you haven't had a private moment to mention that to the rest of the group.
And the fact that he seems quite eager for us to talk to him about 1924 by the sounds of it. And like,
Why would you do that though?
There are reasons, but we'll get to that after the break.
and we're here for our own private business.
And you're here for your own private business. All right, guys, I'll be back in 10.
Right, back shortly.
I'm going to read about Bob Hope.
Yeah, they will vanish very quickly, very soon. Oh.
They've got a really good selection of dark chocolates in there, which are actually vegan, funnily enough. But what they come in is, so you get like the 100-gram bar, but it's split into, I think it's either 4 or 5 little bars inside. So you can just and they're individually wrapped. So you can just go in and go, I'm just going to have a little bit tonight. Take one individually wrapped one out. Never works because you end up scoffing the whole lot. But
Yeah.
it's the thought that counts.
Yeah, that sounds like a bottle of wine.
But they've got like chili chocolate, orange chocolate, mint chocolate. They've got all the. It's a really good selection they've got.
Well, that was my idea with getting the dairy milk like this, so that it's the same idea, so that you can actually control yourself. And it does work to a certain degree. What I tend to find out is that I'll have dark chocolate biscuit, like digestive, and break one in half and have one chunk on half of the biscuit, and it tastes really nice, dark chocolate with the milk chocolate. And I actually managed to moderate it that way to a certain extent.
Thing with the individual wrapped ones as well. If you want to go back for more, you have to get steps in at least to go and get them.
Right, are we back?
We are back, sir.
So I'm just going to tell you my strange concoction in here is oat milk with a mixture of milk chocolate orange and white chocolate mint, because I ran out of milk chocolate orange to make a hot chocolate, and so I threw a load of white chocolate with mint in. So it's like a milky oaty milk chocolate orange mint flavour. It's actually drinkable.
Orange and
Drinkable is not a recommendation, mate.
Yeah.
It's actually bearable. It's not shit.
Yeah, I'm trying to get used to these kind of strange milks that everybody drinks these days, to be down with the cool kids.
But my strange concoction tonight is gin and bitter lemon.
There you go.
I'm not at work tomorrow.
I just have coffee. That's all I drink.
All right.
mine is just actually doesn't show up because the green's just.
So one of you with oral history, how are you going to get Mr. Henslow to open up?
How what?
How are you going to get Mr. Henslow to open up?
Well, if we have to start the conversation, it's either going to be myself or
Me?
Margaret.
Me.
or Margaret. Yeah. I'm kind of watching for psychoanalysis, so it's probably Margaret that leads it. But I assume we would have had this discussion before we went in, because Dart was asking about why we're going in to ask questions. So
Yeah, because I forgot.
Well, the first thing you should really mention is who sent us.
yeah, and the name itself may trigger him into going, oh, Walter, blah blah blah. So we mentioned the mother first, who sent us.
No, Janet, daughter.
No,
Yeah.
Janet.
So was it?
Yeah, daughter.
Janet Winston Rogers is
Oh,
the one
yes, it was.
in New York.
Yeah, I got the other one wrong as well, didn't I? Parents to daughter.
So it's Janet Winston Rogers has sent us here to, after finding these letters that we had,
Yes.
and she wants to know what he can tell us about them, because they don't make any sense to her.
Oh no, we've got spooky music now.
She wants to find out. She wants to find out more about her father and what he was doing.
Yeah, she's a daughter looking for answers, essentially. But just the mention of that name, and then about him asking about him, may trigger him to sort of like either go batshit crazy or open up and then lead us into the rest of us jump into the conversation.
So which one do you want to do?
You're literally just opening the door for us.
So just say that we're here on behalf of John Winston Rogers, who asked us to come here and speak to him after her father's death.
Yeah, we would have talked about this beforehand, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, you've done that.
Do I need to spend my oral history?
No, you don't need to make. No. It's in this instance, this is a guaranteed clue, if you like. So as long as the person who has the skill, starts the conversation, you will get the clue, basically.
Oh, okay.
He pauses for a second, for a fleeting moment, a look of sadness crossing his face, and then he kind of sighs. I hadn't heard that my dear friend Walter had passed. He never did write me back the letters. I often wondered whether the memories of 24 were too painful for him to deal with. Perhaps I should take you back to that day, to that time.
Only if you feel comfortable with it, Douglas.
He looks at you and he smiles. Well, that depends, Mr. Hass, I believe you said your name was?
Mr. Hart, yes, you can call me Ralph.
It depends on whether you believe me or not. Anyway, 1924.
I just say, is Hass a German name?
Yes. Haas, yes. H-A-A-S, yeah, German.
German or Dutch, yeah.
Or Dutch, yeah.
That area's Bavaria, I think.
Yeah. Remember, there were Germans in the US during World War One, right? Just like there were Japanese and in the US during Pearl Harbor and World War Two. They didn't have a good. They didn't have a good time.
I know. I read about it.
Yeah.
I think it's you got Dutch immigrants coming. It's a Dutch name, so you got Dutch immigrants that came across. Yeah. The way I've written it is I'm like fourth generation. This character's fourth generation American.
Yeah.
So he came over sort of like in the 1800s. The family. I actually found an immigrant called Hass that came over in New York. So
that's really good.
In 1924, we thought we were doing good work. In fact, I still believe we were doing good work, though you might disagree once you hear the fullness of the tale. We were travelling the country hot on the trail of a cult that started all of this. We questioned people, gathered evidence, took pictures, travelled all over. We were all like detectives. Hold on a second, I need to put my glasses on. We were like detectives, armed with our secret knowledge in the occult. It was an exciting time, or so I thought. We'd follow the drugs all the way across the country until we got to Los Angeles. That's where the bulk of our investigation took place. That's where everything terrible happened. Walter was the brains of our little band. He and FC did the research into what that cult was planning, into the summoning, and determined that they were using drug monies to fund their operation. It was they who figured out that the cult was already in contact with that dreadful thing, the thing with 1,000 mouths, and were planning to summon it, or an incarnation of it, to that barn outside Los Angeles. We rushed to the barn as soon as we got word that so many of the cultists were meeting up there. Walter said that the stars were right that night too, whatever that meant. So we rushed out there with guns and homemade fireball bombs to put a stop to it, to save the world. And he pauses for a second, and he kind of looks down. A bit of sadness kind of creeps over his demeanour. Not enough to worry Ralph, but still, the memories do portray an element of remorse, guilt, sadness. It was horrific. Fire. It was a horrific fire. And there was a shootout. When that thing began tearing people apart, people were running and screaming and throwing themselves into the fire and into our line of fire. I know I shot some people that night, probably killed them. And then the thing came for us and I saw Walter panic. I'd never seen him panic. And then all I know is that I was bolting through the high grasses with the fire behind me, like a coward. Like a damned coward. A coward. And he seems to go in on himself. If anybody with reassurance wishes to speak up, to try and convince him to carry on with his tale. If you do, what do you say to him? You don't need to spend a point.
No.
It's just kind of, how do you get him to continue?
Douglas, I'm a friend of the family. I've seen. I used to come as a child and to Walter's house, and I'd spend time not being able to know what he was doing, but the energy that he put out because of what he was doing made me want to be like him. And it's because of this that I'm helping Janet out to find out what he was doing, and now, maybe put her at ease and hopefully stop anything that's happening, because she was saying strange, just correct me if I'm wrong here, but she was saying that the house they used to live in, that strange things happened, shadows moved without moving, and things just seemed wrong, and it didn't feel like home. Like something was always watching them.
He looks at you. Westmore. Walter spoke of you. Are you the boy he spoke of?
I am the boy he spoke of, yes.
He smiles. That gives me some comfort that you're here listening to my tale. It was the cult's fault. They were depraved. They were fornicating in the name of their wicked god in groups. They all did drugs I've never even heard of and hurt each other for sport. They were all monsters. Monsters. And so that night, as we tried to stop whatever this thing was, many lost their lives. Afterwards, I can only assume that my mind took a bit of a hit. I think in World War One, during the Great War, they wouldn't call it World War One because World War Two hadn't happened. During the Great War, they said soldiers had this thing called shell shock. I suspect that's what happened to me after the events, and I've been here for the most part ever since. But I was able to do some good, I think. I kept notes, drawings, pictures, information about what was happening, to try and help us piece it all together after the event. I hid that notebook away with a secret key to understanding more of what was going on back then, and what is almost certainly still going on since we failed to stop it. You want to know where it is? He looks at you for a moment.
If it'll help Janet and it'll help you, then yes.
Ask Frank Hickering, our groundskeeper. But if I know old Frank, he'll be very protective of Mama. So perhaps the warden, perhaps Dr. Keaton, would furnish me with paper, and I'll write you a letter of introduction that should allow you to gain some audience with Mama and look for this notebook.
We've already met the groundsman. He seemed very obstinate and very forthright at not letting us see your mother. But yes, if we could get you paper and you could write a letter of introduction.
I'll do that under one condition.
Yes, my friend.
I'm here, probably for the rest of my life. You'll continue the investigation?
We will see where it goes, yes.
Very good. Very good. Then yes, I will gladly write a letter to Frank. If you give it to Frank, I'm sure with my endorsement, he'll let you look around the property and perhaps you'll find what you're looking for.
Do you have any idea where it is? Surely you must have. You put it there.
My memory, he shakes his head, my memory is all a blur. But I think what you're looking for, you'll be able to find in the house. I'm sure of it. I apologise, Mr. Westmore. I can't remember quite where it is. He seems to stare past you over towards where Alfred is standing. For a brief second, Ralph, you see something cross over his face. For a moment, it's a look of horror, and then it's a look of calmness.
Okay.
I suppose it would be remiss of me not to tell you a little bit about my travelling companions in 24.
Does our friend Alfred remind you of one of them?
Oh, no, he doesn't, no.
Can I just ask, my character, would she be skeptical about all this sort of occult thingy being a cop?
That's
law-
entirely up to you. But if we've established she's got theology, that probably means she's a good Irish Roman Catholic, which probably means, yes, she is doubtful about the occult. I think
although fears the devil.
But fears the devil, absolutely, yeah.
So
Yeah,
very
unexpected
open to the
insight.
cult.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would say there's only one person realistically that would not be sceptical, and that is Ralph.
Yeah, I'm very open to this.
The rest of you, I think Ralph in the group is the only one, just talking out game, metagaming for a second, Ralph is the only one in the group with an established value in occult.
Whereas
yeah, you're adventurous.
Yes, exactly. And I'm just here for the family, really.
Yeah. Margaret, you would be generally sceptical, but over time, if Margaret continues through the campaign, over time she would obviously become less sceptical as she sees things that are unbelievable with her own eyes, and probably the same with Alfred.
Yeah.
I would say Alfred is probably looking for something that he hasn't got in his life.
You might tell by seeing horrible, horrific things that people can do to each other.
Correct, you have, yes. So you don't flinch so much when he talks about people fornicating, people hurting each other.
When I heard that, my character would understand that stuff.
Yeah, you'll have come across that. You broke up a pimp. You put away a pimp recently. So somebody who controls women for sex, right?
Yeah, and children as well.
And you broke up a gang. So you have seen people do horrific things to other people.
When you said that, actually, I thought that cult's slanish.
Yeah. He says, well, obviously you know about Mr. Winston, a self-made man, a businessman who got a start as a pharmacist, opened some drugstores, made some good money. He was our self-proclaimed leader. It was him who gathered us together to battle the perversity in the world that this cult represented. He funded us too. A good man. A very good man. He was about 50, early 50s at the time, I seem to think. Then there was Vince Stack. Walter called him a fixer, a tough fella, good with a gun, good with his hands, always down to business, always ready to drink. He's the one who waded right in there that night and brought hell to some of the cultists with his shotgun. I think at the time he was in his 40s. Catherine, a sharp girl, was our archivist, camerawoman, record keeper. She hated that something like the cult could operate in secret, that people would cover up something so vile instead of revealing it for what it was, I think. Yet she's the one who got close enough to it all to get us photographs. And she's the one who caught wind of what was happening that night in 24. She died that night. She didn't make it home. She was only in her mid-20s as well. And then, of course, there was F.C. Coleman, Walter's expert in the occult. And as he says this again, he glances towards Alfred for a moment. Apparently he was known far and wide for his expertise. Back in the day, Walter had to pay him quite a bit to come with us out to Los Angeles, as I recall. A bit of a stick in the mud, that fellow, but bright as he can be. Stuck in a wheelchair too, but a good can-do attitude. He was also in his 50s. And so, yes, friends died, cultists died, but we failed. He kind of sits quietly.
There was another, and I don't know. I don't want to upset you here, but there was another name mentioned by the doctor.
Just as you're about to say something here, I'm going to put my hand on your wrist and say, might it be worth getting the paper first?
Yeah, I wouldn't mention that.
Possibly.
Alfred, could you just knock on the door and see if our good friend the doctor can get us a paper and a writing implement, please?
Yes. I'll turn around and knock and see if the door will open.
Yeah, the door opens, and Dr. Keaton kind of opens it and kind of, yeah, yes?
I've got a request for some pen and paper. He wants to write a letter for us.
Oh, okay. Yes, Leroy, could you go down to reception and bring paper and pen back for Mr. Henslow, please? Indeed, will do. And the one of the guys goes off.
Yeah.
Down
The other one's still standing outside.
No, he's not there.
Okay, so there's just the doctor here now.
Just a doctor there now, yeah.
Okay.
Let's kill him and take over the place.
Do I hear that in my head? In this sanatorium already, it's like, well...
Alfred, something catches your eye as you come back into the room.
Is it a big steel hook?
No,
That'd be a bugger.
There's a yellowish water stain just by the side of the door, and for a moment, you thought it looked like a mouth forming words.
Okay. I'll look at the stain and move around from different angles to see if I can see the same thing again. See if I'm caught it at a certain angle, and a certain angle it looks like a mouth, or... Okay.
That seems to be what it looks like.
Does it look at all familiar to me?
You haven't a clue.
It does to me. Or that's out of context, though.
Looks like a mouth.
Well, looks like
Spider's web to me.
Joker's mouth.
Whose mouth?
The Joker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it does a bit. See, I'm seeing a spider's web as well. Spider at the top with the webbing in front of it.
Good call. Good call.
There is another strange mark on the wall just beneath it. But it's too hard to make out right now.
Is this what Douglas was looking at when he looked over at Alfred?
No, but
Could be. It would have been. It would have been if Alfred was kind of resting against the wall. It would have been. So I imagine you were resting at the wall with the door here, rather than resting at the wall this side with the door, because the door would open into you. Then you see, if somebody came in, and it was literally just above, partly blocked by his right shoulder.
Okay.
So my question would be: was it on the inside or the outside when you opened the door? But that's fine.
So when they come back with the paper and pen and they shut the door, I'll get my magnifying glass out and take a look at the wall, see if there's anything there that I can see better with a bit of studying, or whether I'm just imagining things.
Okay. Do you have anthropology?
No.
I don't even know what that is.
I do.
There appears to be some additional symbols, kind of partly almost encircling this stain, but some of the symbolism and some of the symbols have kind of disappeared in the dampness of the plaster. I mean, genuinely, you get your magnifying glass out and you look at it, and it just looks like the way water has run or seeped through the wall. It doesn't look like a mouth or anything when you look at it through your magnifying glass. It's only when you kind of glance at it from a certain angle do you think it's a mouth, and you think it's kind of opening and trying to speak. But you kind of shake your head a little bit after looking through your microphone, and you go, no, it's not. It's just my imagination. Just this place is making me feel a bit... It's kind of reminding you of the hospitals you spent time in post the war when you had shell shock.
Okay.
There's a strong smell of chlorine in here as well. It's kind of that very clinical, very sterile, very bare kind of... It's bringing all that back. And so you just kind of dismiss this as being a figment of your imagination.
Okay.
He hands you the paper, he folds it over and slides the paper over. He says, I can't tell you much more, but perhaps if you find these things, they'll be of use and you'll be able to help Miss Winston Rogers finally lay her father to rest.
I'll take the pen off him as well if it's there in his hand.
Yeah.
No,
small smile crosses his face as you do so.
No, thank you, Douglas, and whatever happens, we will come back and tell you.
Very good, very good. I'll look forward to that. I don't think it'll help me leave these walls, but maybe it will bring me some closure. The doctor says I've just imagined it all, some kind of way of dealing with the events of that day, the death and the loss of life, imagining this beast, this thing with 1,000 mouths. But it felt real to me.
You actually saw this thing then? This. How big was it?
I don't know. I can't describe it. It was.
Was it like a new kind of elephant?
He looks at you blankly. I don't know. It's just horrific. This thing. All I remember is mouths and ripping flesh and blood. And no, I don't want to remember it anymore.
Don't worry, Douglas. My friend Ralph here had a question for you.
Yes. Forget about the mouths, Douglas. Put them to one side. The Dr. Keating, did mention another name, and that was a Mr. Job, who's also a resident here. He was wondering whether we'd be speaking to him. Do you know any reason why we would? He said he was possibly also there on that night.
He killed Vincent.
He killed Mr. Stack.
Stabbed him 8 or 9 times, I think. Set upon him like a wild animal. Mr. Keaton did tell me he was here, but he's always kept us apart. I often wonder how Mr. Keaton managed to find Mr. Job and bring him here. I was never able to get any straight answers. But yes, to answer your question, Mr. Haas, he was there.
Well, maybe we will get some answers. It may be worth us taking up the doctor's suggestion and speaking to him.
Yes. But why would the doctor bring somebody from out of state to here? I'm assuming he was out of state.
Yes. The last I remember is Los Angeles, the farm.
Whereabouts was the farm? Do you remember where? You said the outskirts of Los Angeles. Which direction?
I don't remember. South, I think? Southeast, maybe? He gives out a bit of a yawn. I'm tired.
Sorry, Vincent.
If you don't mind, I wish to go back to my room and lay down for a while.
That just before you do, Douglas, thank you for your time. It's been much appreciated. That phrase you used, "thing with 1,000 mouths," was that just descriptive, or had you seen that somewhere before?
And that's the impression I got of this thing.
Okay, so
I remember Mr. Winston, Walter. That's what he called it. The thing with 1,000 mouths.
Okay,
And that's what they were.
I don't want to press on it because I don't want to bring back the memory of that night. So it seems to have been referred to before. So okay, that's fine. Thank you.
You've been very helpful, Douglas, and we will pass on your regards to Janet when we next see her.
He kind of nods and gives you a bit of a smile. I hope you find what you're looking for. Dr. Keaton, my time is done here. The door opens and the orderly comes in and, come on then, Douglas, let's go back to your room. And he kind of comes out of his chair and lets the orderly kind of puts his arm around him and steers him out of the room.
When he's out of sight and out of earshot, Dr. Keating.
Yes?
You mentioned this job fellow.
Yes.
Could we have a word with him as well, just for To pique our curiosity.
Of course, of course. I'm happy to arrange that, but there is a condition attached.
Well, we believe he's a violent patient, or with a history of violence. So
That would be my condition. My condition would be for me to be in the room this time.
that would have been my condition this time as well.
Yourself or you and an orderly? No offense, but it looks like the orderlies are better able to handle a violent patient than yourself.
Indeed, yes. There'll be myself and an orderly will be present. If you don't mind, I'll take you back to the waiting area, and I will have the orderlies bring Mr. Job. That interview probably took you best part of it's now about 4:30 in the afternoon. It's dark outside, obviously, because it's October, although it might be a little bit lighter because you're further close to the equator, so it's probably that little bit lighter. The rain is coming down quite hard. You're taken back to the reception area, and you're kept waiting for another 15 minutes or so before the orderly that you remember being called Leroy, the coloured gentleman, comes in. Madam, gentlemen, Mr. Job is ready for your interview. Mr. Keaton is there already. Please follow me.
Thank you.
And he leads you not to the same room, to a different room this time.
Same area?
Same area, to number 2, across the way. We have a change in music. Before you see a man who, by the looks of things, has already managed to smoke his way through 2 cigarettes and has a third on the go. A gaunt, skinny... Gaunt and skinny are the same thing, right? He's definitely a pathetic figure. Skinny, stubble all over his face and scalp. Almost bald, but not quite. Looks more like a prisoner of war, Alfred, to your mind, than a patient in a sanatorium. He's dressed in white scrubs uniform, the same as Dr. Douglas Henslow. You get a smell of stale cigarettes and mouth.
Wait, hang on, it wouldn't be World War II because it hasn't happened yet.
World War One. Sorry, thank you. There's a pack of smokes by the side and an ashtray, and as you come in, he kind of nonchalantly looks over each of you. His eyes linger a little bit longer than they should on Margaret. And before you even say anything, he says, "Do you mind if I smoke?"
Doesn't bother me.
Any of you joining me?
I'll partake. But I'll pull my own out of my silver cigarette case.
Okay. What is it you want? I don't know you. Just that Dr. Keaton here says it'd be a good idea for me to talk to you. Keaton nods. He says, "Indeed, it's okay, Edgar. You can certainly answer the questions that these gentlemen put to you, however you see fit."
So, Roger, is it? Why are you in here?
Roger, no. He hasn't told you his first name yet.
Oh, I thought the doctor did.
Edgar, not Roger. Roger, yeah, Edgar. Why am I in here? His eyes flicker to Keaton. So Keaton's also stood behind you. So maybe stood next to Alfred or something. And there is a slight nod. Well, because I don't really know if what happened or what they say happened. I don't know what I can believe from those days. Dr. Keating doesn't really want me to relive those days or to externalize my fears. He doesn't like me talking about monsters unless they're me. Isn't that right, Doctor? Well, yes, it's okay. But I think we can make an exception today, depending on the kind of answers that these gentlemen ask. So go ahead, you can answer.
I'm going to turn around to the Doctor and say, "What's these monsters he speaks of? Monsters of mind, or?"
Indeed, I believe he has created fiction in his head to justify the events of that day in 1924.
I'll take a long drag on my cigarette and blow the smoke in the air and lean slightly forward towards Edgar and say, "So what did happen, Edgar?"
Well, I'm not really supposed to ask about what happened that night, about Henslow's friends, about Echevarria. I'm not really ready yet. We didn't really have a name, you know. It was just the cult. We were just Echevarria's, you know how it is. We were his people. I suppose cult is as good a word as any, but I never saw it as a cult.
Who's Echevarria?
Well, I met him around the time I was at UCLA. George introduced us. I think George Avery, George Ayres. I swear I can hear his voice, but I can't remember his name. It's all hazy. Did I say I'm on 9 different pills? Different sizes, some blue, some red, a couple yellow. They you know, they make me... enough of that, Edgar. Focus on what the lady has asked you. Yes, Echevarria. If that was his real name, I don't know. That's how he introduced himself to us. He had a hell of a library. Creepy books. Gave us all kinds of ideas for things to do. Sex things. And again, as he says that, his eyes kind of bore into Margaret a little bit. And things to say out of those books.
I just give him a dead stare because I've dealt with people like this before.
Yeah. Through damned crazy parties. Sex, drugs. I think I was high from 1923 through to August of 24. So my memory of that time is not as good as it should be. I remember, you know, lots of sex. Lots of sex. And drugs. Echevarria got us drugs. Not weak, pathetic drugs, but the strong, potent stuff. He promised us all. Promised me power. I remember, well, at least I think I remember. My mind's a little bit hazy again, but I'm sure he said power. Still, we'd all get whatever we wanted in the new time when Golgoroth was here. We called him the Fisher from outside for some reason. This isn't what I wanted. I don't want it. I don't want to be here. I didn't expect to be here.
Continue.
I'm not sure I want to. And he kind of looks down a little bit. He takes out the final cigarette from his packet and kind of lights it up quite slowly. I don't know. I don't know.
You mentioned the
Takes-
word Golgoroth. What's that?
I wouldn't have asked him that.
Keaton looks over to you, Alfred. You didn't say you were going to ask such pointed questions. I'm not sure Edgar should be focusing on the supernatural or make-believe in this interview. I think we should focus on the facts.
That's what I'm.
It's my professional opinion that this Golgoroth thing is just a figment of Mr. Job's imagination to justify the events of that night. Nothing more, nothing less.
So it's a creature rather than a place. He didn't put it into any context, so I wanted to double check.
Well, the name Fisher from outside was attributed to it, so I would assume,
Possibly a place. Possibly a creature, yes.
yeah, or a person.
Yeah.
As Dr. Keaton's saying, this could be something that's layered on top of reality. So this could be a person that's been attributed this monstrous persona.
So this Echevarria could be one and the same as the Fisher and Golgoroth.
Or two separate people. Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Or three separate people.
Yeah.
So Edgar, you haven't told us why you're here, and what happened to you to get here.
He takes a long drag of his cigarette. You watch as the tip turns to ash, probably almost a quarter of the cigarette down, and he lets out a long blast of smoke. Kind of glances upwards for a second, and shakes his head. You've got to understand, I was high on drugs, euphoric from the sex. I remember this one guy had a shotgun. Echevarria just stood up, kind of stood in the way, and this guy just blew him away, shot him right down. I remember his body pushed 5, 10, maybe 15 feet across the room. Something snapped in me. I felt like that promise of power was slipping from me, and I so wanted power. So I grabbed Echevarria's knife, this big, ugly, stone-carved knife. It looks like it wouldn't have done any harm to anybody. And I stabbed. And I stabbed. And I stabbed. He had wide eyes, this man with the shotgun. I thought he was going to shoot me. He was loading. I had to get away from him. So I stabbed. And I stabbed. And I stabbed. Until my hands were red with blood. I dropped the knife. I fled. I had to get away. I knew it was wrong. I knew I shouldn't have done it. I see his face every night. I can't undo it. It's best if I move on, at least. And with this, he kind of looks up at Dr. Keaton. That's what Dr. Keaton says. Indeed, Edgar, once you can forgive yourself, then the healing can begin. And hopefully, in time, you can be released from here. Edgar nods, and so you keep saying. For a second, he looks down at his hands, perhaps thinking about the blood that was on it all those years ago. I'm sure Echevarria put spells on us, or on me anyway. Now I know, Dr. Keaton. Again, it's just words you say, just a way of influencing people with their voice, but it was odd. But on this particular night, Echevarria said it was kind of a big deal. Put it on me, he said it would be right before the Fisher or the thing showed up. I don't know what it was supposed to do, but I survived. So maybe that's something.
Did any of your other cultists survive, or were you the only one?
A few survived, I think, but many died.
How did they die? Do you know?
Guns. The thing.
That's twice you said the thing. What thing?
Golgoroth. It had long, weird limbs. No head. Mouths. Lots and lots of mouths. I couldn't really make it out, and I didn't really try. And I don't want to remember. I don't want to remember. I mustn't remember. Indeed, Edgar, these are just things that your mind has created to help you justify the horrors that you saw that night. It is just the mere figment of your imagination. Well, whatever. I know I was screaming, and then Echevarria fell to the man with the shotgun. I grabbed it. I stabbed. I think they called him Stack, Mr. Vincent Stack. I ran the hell out of there, into the fields. Behind me, I watched and felt the barn as it burnt. I heard the screams, whether it was from the thing, or whether it was from the fire, or whether it was from the gunfight, the gunshots. I don't know. But I'm afraid, whatever that thing was, it wasn't what we thought it was going to be, wasn't what we were promised, wasn't what he said it was. And it's still there, it's still out there. And he glances at the wall.
Look to a glance.
Yeah,
There
I'll
is
look
a
over my shoulder.
symbol painted on the wall. Give me a second. I'm going to try and find it because I haven't uploaded it. It's not the mouth, it's some other strange kind of symbol. Just going to drag some stuff into chat. So while I'm looking for it, that's what an electrolarynx looks like from the 1930s. Oh, I don't think I've posted it yet.
I don't see anything.
There you go.
Oh, in Discord.
Sorry, in Discord, yeah. I know it doesn't help chat. I'll figure something out in a second. And then I'll upload this into Discord again.
That's so small, I can't see it.
That is what you see. Yeah, it is small. Hold on a second. Let me do this.
Wait, that symbol's on the wall.
Yes. I'll post it into here 1 second. I just need to... do this. It takes me a couple of minutes to do this, so apologies. Yeah, and as you look, you can see exactly. You can see that picture seems to be etched, for want of a better word, scribed into the wall somehow, possibly with a pen or some other kind of not too sharp but not too blunt instrument.
How big is it?
Which chat's this gone into?
It's gone into the Discord chat, but I'm going to post the image into Foundry as soon as I can grab it from my...
For the Discord actual chat channel. I mean, the voice channel.
Yeah.
All right, I was looking in the Eternal.
Yeah,
Lives.
sorry. God, it's so buried.
I got you.
There you go. So that our folks at home can see the image who are watching this. It's not a great picture, but that's what it looks like. Posted into Discord, into Foundry.
How big is this on the wall, then?
It's not that big, probably that kind of size.
Okay, and it's...
Ignore
physically in the wall.
sort of ignore the snake and the leaf. Focus on the circle with the two, almost like the Star of David with the eye in the middle. That's more like what you're looking at. The rest would just be, if you saw this elsewhere, that might be what it looked like.
But it's a physical thing on the wall. It's not my imagination this time.
No, that is definitely etched in. And now you look at it, that circle does seem to be part of that circle was visible around the mouth that you saw in the other room.
Okay.
So almost like the circle somehow had been like maybe disappeared from the water, and the mouth had then appeared around or just over the circle. As you kind of look at it, he kind of gives you a half smile.
Water.
Say again.
You said water.
Yes.
Yeah, the water on the other wall,
other room.
In the other room.
There are damp patches in these rooms, and in this room.
Sorry, I was like,
Yeah, there's also some damp patches in here, but you look around those damp patches and there doesn't seem to be any sign of a mouth or anything untoward in them. The more you think about it, Alfred, the more you think your eyes were just playing a trick on you. You literally just think it was water staining. Maybe the staining had kind of disrupted this image to a point that it had made it look like a mouth. You don't know.
So while I've been sitting in these, I've took a sketch of Douglas in the other room.
Yeah.
I've took a sketch of Job as well.
Yeah.
And as I turn around and spot this, I'll take a quick sketch of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you're all kind of paying attention, Job kind of half smiles. We both do that, Henslow and me. I know the doctor keeps us away from each other, but I've seen it where he's been, and I'm sure he's seen it where I've been. I know he watches us.
And
The thing we summoned.
Right. Okay.
So you've done this?
Yes.
Is this to protect yourself?
Well, I hope so. You see, Echevarria used to have them in his library. Showed them to me. I always assumed it was to stop it from seeing us if we put those up. But that's how I learned that it's sometimes called the thing with 1,000 mouths too, the thing that we summoned. These old things, they have a lot of names. Nyarlathotep. Yogg-Sothoth. He doesn't say that. No, don't worry about it. He doesn't say those.
Will.
Yeah, see, Rob doesn't know about these yet.
No.
are you talking about old gods that I don't know about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
ancient Cthulhu gods.
Just put me into this place now.
And there are gods from out there and the gods from here. It's really weird Cthulhu mythos. Like there are gods that live on the planet Earth, and then there are gods that are out in space, and the two clash occasionally.
The only one I know about any kind of gods is Hellboy.
Yeah.
The end of Hellboy 2, I think that was supposed to be Cthulhu coming through or something.
Yeah.
He kind of looks at you. Keaton kind of, well, Edgar, I think you did very well. I'm pleased to say you didn't have one of your episodes again tonight, this afternoon, so that is good. Are you done, Edgar? Edgar kind of finishes the last drag of his last cigarette and he nods. I think so, Doctor.
Just one last question, Edgar, before you do go. Echevarria had a library, you say. Whereabouts is this library?
at his house in Los Angeles. I can't remember where, or even if it still exists. It wasn't where the summoning was, though.
Did you say it was UCLA? You said he was on a campus. Did you say it was a faculty?
Well, I don't know if he was faculty, but it's certainly where I met him. UCLA, George Avery, George Ayres, George Anders. I can't remember his surname. It's all fuzz. It's all hazy. But yes, he was faculty. Was George, I think, or something to do with UCLA. It was there that he introduced me to Echevarria, who invited me to his parties.
Thank you for the time.
I understand that all these people are dead that he's talking about.
Echevarria, yes. You don't know about anybody else.
We know Stack's dead.
Yeah, Stack's dead, yeah.
Yeah, we know Stack's dead. We know
Coleman's
Catherine's
dead.
dead.
Yeah.
Coleman's dead.
No, Coleman's not dead, is he?
No.
We didn't get that confirmed, but we did get confirmed Catherine was dead.
Yeah.
And this guy, and they've both confirmed Stack died. So.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Dr. Keating, for allowing, for showing his job, or Job. I don't know why he has no connection really to Douglas, does he?
Well, they shared hysteria, perhaps. He's basically saying to this, he's walking you back out to the, clinically speaking, they both claim to have been part of the same event. They're both fascinating in the ways that they have chosen to remember it. Mr. Job very aggressively, Mr. Henslow more matter of fact. They both are haunted by these visions, the memories and the things that they
Could
do.
they have spoken to each other inside here?
Well, we do our best to keep them separate. I think in 1927 they came across each other. Not long after we brought Mr. Job here, it was Edgar that yelled at Henslow, telling them that he was responsible for killing his friend. And we felt it was more prudent to segregate the two. We are slowly but surely trying to work on Mr. Job to allow him to perhaps sit in a room with Mr. Henslow so that they can perhaps talk out what they each remember and perhaps forgive each other. That's at least our hope. Help them overcome these animosity that they feel towards each other, perhaps from a shared traumatic event. It's a very fascinating area. And I have to say, I'm working on a thesis at the moment that I hope I could submit to the medical board based on the findings from these two individuals and their sad tragedy that they both witnessed.
I look forward to reading it.
Oh, well, hopefully it'll be published soon.
As we're being escorted out, I'm going to be looking around the corridor to see if there's any more of these scratches in the walls that anyone's written.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else has put on there.
Alfred, as you walk past sort of one of the other interview rooms, the door opens and a really obese woman comes out. Again, wearing the white linen dress of a patient. She kind of looks at you and goes to put her hands on you, and she kind of smiles. Oh, you're a cutie, aren't you? I wonder, did you see me in my last film?
Your last film?
Why, yes. My last film. Damn it, I'm trying to find the details. 1 second. It's all good. It's all good until I lose the paper that has this on, and we suspend belief while I try and find it. There we go. Got it. Yes. Yes. The red rope.
Doesn't sound familiar. I'm sorry.
You probably have seen it. It starred Olivia Clarendon. Yes, yes. The name is Miss Clarendon. Pleasure. Have you got something I could sign for you? I would love to sign something for you.
I'll get my notepad out.
Okay. And she kind of scrawls a name that, if you look at it at a slight angle, it could say Olivia Clarendon, but you're not quite sure. But she's this very, very large. And the orderly kind of goes, come on, Agatha, move down the corridor. Don't. And Dr. Keaton kind of looks you over and, yes, I apologise. That's Agatha Sarms. She's got a delusion about being a Hollywood actress. And the actress changes depending on what we've been showing in the common room. I believe yesterday we showed one of Miss Clarendon's recent films. And actually, now you think about it, The Red Rope was probably out a couple of years ago. Let's see if it really exists. I always like this with this. Does that film actually exist?
There is a Red Rope, 1937.
Oh, okay.
So I think because of the timeline, wasn't this supposed to be set a little bit later, you said?
Yeah, 1937.
It was 37, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, Olivia Clarendon is a made-up person. But let's assume for the timeline here, for people who are interested, that
she took the place of Louis January.
Yeah.
As Betty Duncan.
In the Western, The Red Rope.
Why is this originally set at a certain time, but you changed the time?
Because there's an event later on in the book that requires the game to be set in 1934 for the event to actually have happened.
So they made a mistake.
By 1937, when the book is supposed to be set, that event is long gone and finished.
Oh, okay.
And you arrive midway through or partway through that event taking place. And so the recommendation is to just bring the game back to October 34, because then, depending on how far you move and how fast you move, all the timeline of the events that you get caught up in surrounding the main plot are all genuinely happening at that time.
Okay.
So it's continuity, Dart. You are taken back to the front, and the doctor thanks you for your time, but kind of insists that you leave.
No, thank you, Doctor. If we do have any more questions, I'm sure you'll be as accommodating as you have been today. Thank you.
Really smart.
Did I see any more scratches as we were walking down the corridor?
You didn't, no. You saw no more scratches.
Okay.
For the last couple of hours, you've sort of been here now nearly sort of 2.5 hours. Your driver has been sat patiently in the car, listening to the wireless. As you kind of step out into the dark, into the rain, he starts the engine, turns the lights on. You all jump in and head back to the hotel. Before we wind up for the evening and call the game finished for tonight, do you want to do anything? Because we'll start the game probably the morning of the following day.
This letter he gave us is not sealed, obviously, because he folded it there in front of us. Can we have a quick read of that?
You can. And in fact, not only can you have a read of it, you've got a handout of it.
Oh, wonderful.
It says, Frank, these people are investigating my case and looking after my well-being while I remain in the hospital. Please grant them a pleasant welcome and full run of the grounds and mansion while they conduct their investigation. Any cooperation you can offer would be much appreciated. Give my love to Mother. Truly, Douglas H.
Sorry, what time of day did you say it was?
It's currently, by the time you get back to the hotel,
5:30.
it is probably 6:15 by the time you get back to the hotel.
Okay, library will be closed, so
Library will be closed.
I will start racking my head
Okay.
about whether I'll continue that in the next day, because I want to pop to the library.
Okay.
And I want to try and see if I can track down any reference to that image.
Yeah.
And also the name Golgoroth.
Okay.
The fish from outside, and what was it? Thing with a thousand mouths.
Yep. Thing with 1,000 mouths.
Yes.
Okay. We can tackle that next week.
Since Mr. Job mentioned that him and what was his name? The patient, Herbert. Is it?
Douglas Henslow.
Douglas.
Yeah.
That I'd been scratching. Would I consider what I'd actually seen as be a possibility and be able to sketch it, or have I just dismissed it altogether?
You could sketch what you think you saw. Sure.
Yeah, I'll do that. Considering he said that they've both been scratching into the wall, it may have been something, but
Yep.
yeah, I'll while it's fresh in my mind, or freshish, I'll sketch what I can remember.
Okay.
And I'd just like to ring Janet, keep her up to date, and probably send a message as well to Frank Keane to let him know what we're doing.
Joseph, while you're making those calls, could you also call UCLA and see whether we can arrange at some point a meeting with a George Avery or Ayres or Anders who's on staff?
Yeah. Ayres, Avery, Anders. Certainly.
And maybe see if they'd recognise the name Echevarri. He may have been on campus as well if George introduced them.
I'll have to wait till morning to do that when the office is open.
Maybe leave Echevarria, because I assume we're going to go out there. Maybe leave Echevarria until we're there. We can have that discussion with George Avery under the pretense that you're looking to take classes in that field or something like that.
I'll donate to the campus.
Okay, so you're going to do this tonight, are you? Given Los Angeles is obviously behind you in time, the faculty would still generally be open.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Probably they're 3 hours behind, aren't they? So it'll be
so it'll
3
be
o'clock now.
2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, getting on for 3 o'clock. Okay, so you send a telegram, or you're going to phone. What are you going to do? Phone or telegram Keynes, your pilot?
Telegram.
Okay, you send a telegram to Keynes, just explaining what you've got up to, sort of, because it is kind of the first full day that you've been away from him, if you like.
Exactly, yeah.
That's fine. You put a call in to George, not George Ayres, to the UCLA, and after a while, UCLA switchboard, how may I help you?
Oh, hello there. I wonder if you can help me. I'm looking for George Ayres, or was it Avery's? Oh gosh, maybe it's Andrew.
Yes. We have a Professor Ayres on faculty. Is that who you're looking for?
Is it George Ayres?
It is indeed, yes, Professor George Ayres.
Wonderful, thank you. Yes, that's who I'm looking for. I'm just wondering, which profession is he in?
Oh, he's in Faculty of Archaeology, Occult and History.
Fantastic. Just wondering if over the next week he'd be available for myself and my colleagues to come and have a discussion with him about just what he's doing. Maybe if we make a donation to help him on his way.
There's a pause. I think perhaps you should come to. Perhaps you should arrange a visit here and speak with the head of history, Dr. McDunn. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to discuss this matter over an open line, over the telephone, sir. Nor would it be my place to discuss this over the telephone. If I may take your details, and if you're able to come down in the next few days, I'll be able to arrange an appointment with Dr. McDunn.
Certainly, yes. My name's Joseph Westmore. You may have heard of me.
There's a pause, and then there's of course, sir, of course.
Wonderful, thank you.
She's not got a clue.
She hasn't got a clue. And do you have assess honesty? You do, don't you?
I don't think I do, no. No, I don't have assess honesty.
All right, it's as far as you're concerned. She has absolutely
heard.
Yeah, she has absolutely heard of you.
Well, why wouldn't she?
He's so off himself. He's so off himself. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, everybody's heard of me.
Exactly. The great explorer that's not yet been explored.
Maybe she saw me at the premiere of the Red Rope.
Exactly. Without my glasses, that rope looked like a different word, and I had to put my glasses on to reread the word because my printing is quite. And I'm thinking, no, there's no way it was called that. Yes. I can certainly. May I take you? So I've got your name, Mr. Westmore. I will pass on to Mr. McDunn, and I'll take Mr. McDunn's advice. Is there a number that we can get you on, or a location we can reach you?
No, I tend to be travelling quite a lot at the moment, but I've got your details here, so if I need to anything, I will give you a call.
Very good. Now, just for your benefit, Mr. Westmore, you will know that it will take. I think it'll take 3 days. Potentially for the flight to get from where you are to Los Angeles.
Wow.
I thought I wrote it. Yeah, I thought I wrote it down. Give me a second.
Is this driving or flying?
Flying, but we get one of those maps with a little red dotted line.
Okay, yes. Yeah. So New York to Savannah, 718 miles. Oh, sorry. It's 4 hours. Savannah to Los Angeles is 13 hours flying because it's just over 2,000 miles.
Yeah, 2,000 miles east to west, yeah.
And you would need 2 stops.
Yeah, it's just refueling.
So not 3 days, sorry, my bad. But yeah, it's a good half a day flying. And generally speaking, you don't fly during the night. No,
it would be longer than that anyway, because you're talking stopping, refueling, going back up again. So
yeah, the aircraft that you have has been modified to do transatlantic journeys. Convenience for the so that's why I said last week it's a DC-2 with some prototype upgrades that will make it into the DC-3 a few years later. And I think the DC-3 was like the first version of the DCs that could do transatlantic journeys.
Mm.
Not that I'm giving anything away about what potentially could happen.
But we may be going across the Atlantic. Is
But
that
you
what
may
you're
be
saying?
going across
Yeah.
the Atlantic.
We're not allowed to, Janet said we can't.
Not yet.
She'd
Not
have to
without
sign-
her clearance.
she'd
Not
have to
without
sign
her.
off on it. We just can't go on a jolly. You know,
Yeah.
we can't go on a jolly to Marrakesh.
Let's
but,
go
yeah.
to the Mediterranean.
You need to stop off twice to get to the other side of America. You'd have to stop off like a couple of times to get across the Atlantic.
Correct. So you fly up to part of Canada, Canada across to Greenland, Greenland to Iceland, Iceland to Ireland, Ireland to the UK.
Oh, okay.
You
Doable.
might be able to go from Greenland to Ireland. I can't remember how big that flight leg is.
But don't forget, because the Earth's curved, it's a lot shorter.
Yes.
Or is
Well,
it
it
flat?
depends. Depends if it's
No, it's
flat,
flat.
doesn't it? Okay, so as you return back to the hotel, and once again you join your colleagues up in your suite for an evening meal, wine, and a reflection on what you've learned for today, we will bring today's game to a conclusion.
Cool.
And
Very, very good.
Awesome session. Yeah.
Yeah.
thank you very much. You're still sane. Dart,
Yeah.
you did much better this week than you did last week. You were
Really?
definitely struggling. Yeah, in the sense that you were struggling to understand how the game worked last week. This week you seem to have been grasped it a lot better, so that was really cool.
Although I didn't think I really did much.
Oh, you did.
I felt like more a spectator than a participant.
But that might be the case, but I thought you were less. Last week you had lots of puzzled looks on your face, like I don't really understand, I'm not following this. This week you didn't. So that spectator, as you get used to the system and the way the game works.
The game system I understand, it's just all the talking bit and where I put my
Exactly.
effort in.
And that's it. And in this kind of thing, we can't all be doing things. Do you know what I mean? It's sometimes you are sat there and you are a spectator. It's you know, it's as simple as that. But it's being engaged, and it's being engaged with the story, and that's not being part of it, but it's like taking it in and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so
If
it's
you
always
look at my
because you might hear something that we don't hear.
Yeah. See, I didn't do much in the way of talking either. I was standing at the back letting the two people with charisma, so to speak.
Yeah, but
doing
you
the
do
talking.
investigation type stuff.
Yeah, I was just looking around and keeping things in. But
Let's just say there will be sections of this that are more action orientated, and that's certainly where Alfred, Margaret, and again Joseph, to a degree, will come into their own. Right?
And I will be hiding in the back seat of
You
what
will
I'm covering.
definitely be hiding in the back seat. Yeah. So at the moment, the game is very much you guys trying to piece together what the heck happened in 1924. Once you've pieced together that, then depending on what the characters choose to do, because you might decide to go, I ain't going to any of this. This is not for me, and I'm out of here.
I think that's what my character's probably already thinking right now. Thinking, I've got a husband and children. I don't want to get into all this.
Yeah,
kind
and
of
that guy's mad as a bag of badgers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's whether your sense of duty, once you understand the problem, does your sense of duty kick in and go, I may not believe this, but I am, I may not believe this, but if I'm being told that the world or, the US is at risk, I want to try and solve the problem. So your sense of duty might kick in and drive you to want to be part of this. It might also go, I don't believe in this. It's all rubbish, and I don't want to get involved. I'm just going to get the FBI involved. If the FBI existed in 1934.
No, I don't think they did.
probably not.
Oh yes, they did because of what's his face, Al Capone.
Oh,
Yeah, that's true. They were around,
They were formed as.
but they weren't called the FBI. I don't think back then. were they?
Probably not.
FBI formed 1908.
They did the whole prohibition thing as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, were they formed by a famous cowboy dude? What's his name?
No, Hoover.
Roosevelt, wasn't it? Was it Teddy?
FBI founded on July 26, 1908. Is
Damn.
born when U.S. Attorney General Charles Bonaparte orders a group of newly hired federal investigators to report to Chief Examiner Stanley W. Finch in the Department of Justice, apparently.
Oh.
That's
when,
the
when they invited a bunch of people to go and report to a guy named Echevarri.
So the descendants of Napoleon Bonaparte founded them.
Yeah. So bear in mind, as far as from what Job said, Echevarri is dead. Right, he got blown away by a shotgun.
Yeah.
So just bear that in mind.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah, it was Teddy Roosevelt that was president at the time.
Oh, cool. Right.
All right, guys, I need to go because I didn't sleep well last night, so I'm getting tired. So I'm going to go and call it a night. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I thoroughly enjoyed tonight. As I said, it's very much storytelling and figuring out what's going on.
Whereas Thursday night.
Yeah, Thursday night is all about
Smash.
Ember. It's all about Ember. And don't forget Thursday, randomly, we are we are in mid-fight, so we will figure out.
I'm tagging Jess back in.
Correct. I just had this most random email, and I'm thinking, what the heck is this?